pals, I'm here today to do a library book haul slash 5-star predictions video. So I have got about 13 books from the library that have been coming in the last week or so. And when I stacked them together to film this video, I was looking at them and just thinking, do you know what? I genuinely think the vast majority of these could be 5-star reads. And now we're in the last chunk of the year. I'm very much focused on trying to read books that I've been putting off or trying to get hold of that I'm convinced I'll absolutely love and will make it to my favourites list. So a lot of these books I requested from the library months ago, and there was just a really long hold list because of lockdown and everything, and so a lot of these have been super anticipated, and also lots of them are really autumnal. So yeah, I just feel like I could really love most of these books. I'm gonna guess that 70 to 80% of these books, let's say 70 to be on the safe side, I'm going to give 5 stars to. And that's pretty crazy because I DNF a lot. I DNF at least 5 books a month. I just don't find the time to talk about them on the channel. And also I rarely give 5 stars, but these books just sound brilliant, so super excited to talk about them. But before I do, I just wanted to mention that I will be doing a live show over on my Patreon tonight on Saturday the 2nd of October at 8 PM GMT. We're going to be discussing Beautiful World, Where Are You by Sally Rooney because we read it this month for Patreon Book Club. I haven't done a live show in 5 years, so I don't think I've ever done one by myself. I don't know. So I'm very nervous but also very excited because I think it's a really great book to talk about. I still haven't quite worked out how I feel about it, and I haven't discussed it with anyone purposefully because I wanted to save all those discussions for the book club. So if you are a patron, then if you're free, remember to pop on over and chat about the book tonight. And if you're not a patron and you have been considering being one or like the sound of it now, then all the details are linked down below. I really appreciate it, but obviously there's absolutely no pressure to go over there if that's something you don't want to do, of course. These books fit into 3 categories, the first one being adult literary fiction. And I think all 4 of these came out in the last year. The first one just came out in paperback in the UK. I think it came out in hardback in Australia in 2020. I love the hardback editions. If I really enjoy this book, which I think I will be buying the hardback edition. Also, I'm sorry if you can hear a cat yowling. Albus is downstairs making lots of weird noises. So that book is The Animals in That Country by Laura Jean McKay. This is set in Australia during a pandemic, so I don't know how I'm going to feel reading about that, but it's a very different pandemic to the one we're experiencing. It's one in which an infection spreads across Australia, which means that people are able to hear the thoughts of animals. That would clearly be a horrific thing for the vast majority of people because we do awful things to animals in every possible way. And so I'm pretty sure this author is a vegan and is sort of writing this from the ethical standpoint of, making the characters in this novel confront their complicity and their purposeful ignorance when it comes to the things we do to animals. And I think it sounds wonderful. We follow a mother who is travelling across Australia, I think with a dingo, trying to save her son because he's been really badly affected by this virus. So I think I could love this one. Cannot wait to read it. And then the next one is a UK release. It came out in March this year, I'm pretty sure, and I have had this reserved from the library since March and I've been just waiting for it to get to me, and that is Hot Stew by Fiona Mozley. I read and adored Elmet by this author. It came out a few years ago. It was her debut novel and it was, I think, shortlisted for the Man Booker, and I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was brilliant. And I really love the sound of this one. It sounds very different. Elmet was a really rural, quiet novel focused on 3 characters, whereas this one is set in Soho in London. I'm not sure when it's set, whether it's contemporary. I think it might be set in the 90s. But we follow a group of sex workers and punters who are living in this area of Soho, and a lot of this is about class and the housing crisis and of course sex work. And I really love the commentary on class she had in her first book, and I really love the way this sounds like it's focused on a group of characters, and from what I've heard, this almost feels like a group of short stories that piece together to make a novel, which is something I really enjoy, so can't wait to read this one. And this next one came out in the US in hardback, I think, in January, and I asked my library if they'd buy a copy of it because I thought it sounded brilliant, and they agreed but said they were going to wait until it was out in paperback, which it just was, and that is White Ivy by Susie Yang. I think this sounds like the perfect book to read around this time of year because it sounds quite dark and twisty. So we follow a young Chinese immigrant who is really struggling to sort of connect with her life in Boston. She feels really ostracised and treated really poorly by white Americans around her. And it says, as an adult, she reconnects with the blonde-haired golden boy of a prominent political family, and she thinks it's fate. But just as she is about to have everything she's ever wanted, a ghost from her past resurfaces, threatening the almost perfect life she's worked so hard to build. It says this has sharp insights into the immigrant experience with both a love triangle and a coming of age story, as well as a dark glimpse of what can happen when we yearn for success at any cost. And I read the first couple of pages of this, and I'll say it reminds me a bit in writing style of Donna Tartt. It's very rich. It's a writing style you have to read quite slowly, and I'm really looking forward to that because I don't feel like I've read a book with this sort of writing style in a while, so I'm very excited. And this next one is also a US imprint that my library have picked up a copy of. I was so surprised but also happy to see that they bought a copy of this one, and that is Caul Baby by Morgan Jerkins. I previously read Morgan Jerkins' first essay collection called This Will Be My Undoing and really enjoyed it, and this is her debut novel, and I also had this one on my most anticipated releases of the year list. This is a sort of epic family drama. We follow a really historic, well-known and powerful Harlem family known for their caul, a precious layer of skin that is rumoured to hold miraculous healing properties. And it says that we follow a woman who loses her baby, and then she finds out that her niece is having a baby, and I think she takes the baby in, and then we follow that family for years. All these sort of secrets are uncovered, and yeah, this sounds pretty dark and twisty as well, and I haven't had anyone talk about this one, but I'm so intrigued by it, and like I said, I really enjoyed the insights in Morgan Jerkins' essay collection. And then I have a few sort of cosy autumnal feeling middle grade books that I'm very excited about. The first one is October by Katya, Balen. I think this is a really beautiful cover. I love middle grade covers, I think they get the best covers. And we follow a young girl called October who lives with her dad in the woods. They sleep in a house that he built for them, and they live in the woods and they are wild. But when she turns 11, she rescues a baby owl, and her dad has to go to hospital. It says, the year the woman who calls herself October's mother comes back, this year changes everything. So I just want to read a book that's set, I'm hoping, in the autumn, obviously in a wood. This cover is brilliant, and I just don't believe that a book with a cover like this isn't going to be amazing. So can't wait to read that one. This next one is sort of like a horror middle grade, which I really like the sound of, and that is The Haunting of Aveline Jones by Phil Hickes. I mean, isn't that cover just absolutely brilliant? We follow this girl who loves reading ghost stories, so a dreary half-term becomes much more exciting when she discovers a spooky old book. She finds out that this young girl went missing many years ago, and she decides to investigate this disappearance. And it says, now someone or something is stirring, and it is looking for Aveline. So can't wait to read that one. I mean, I'm going to say that about all of these books. And then last month we had something called the Dinosaur Trail in Norwich, where I live. So every year or so we have this big trail, it's called the Go-Go Trail I think, where a different sort of type of animal is selected, sometimes mythical, sometimes not, and they're like really big, like way bigger than me, and they get different artists who are from Norwich and Norfolk to illustrate them, and they put them in all different parts of the city, and children and adults alike can do a trail. And one of these dinosaurs, which was painted to look like a dog, it was absolutely brilliant, it was one of my favourite ones. I might even have a picture. If I do, I'll put it here. That's probably me or Johnny with the dinosaur dog. And it was in Gerald's children's bookshop. And as I was looking at the dinosaur, I saw a whole stand with this book on it. It's immediately pulled to it because I absolutely love that cover. This is Mystery of the Night Watchers by A.M. Howell. This just looks really cute and historical. And then I realised that this is set in Suffolk, which is where I'm from. Norwich is like a 40-minute drive from where I'm from in Lowestoft, which is in Suffolk. And this is set in 1910. We follow a young girl who's uprooted to start a new life in Suffolk, in this sort of big old house. But every night from the observatory, she watches her mother and her grandfather leave the property to go do something secret. So she starts to sort of study everybody and all the mysteries. I just think this sounds super like autumnal and cosy, and all three of these children's books sound like the perfect books to read whilst like having a lovely candle lit and drinking some hot chocolate. So there's those. Do any of you like have certain books or types of books that you enjoy reading at certain types of year? I find that I get way more into middle grade and fantasy in the autumn and the winter. These next two books blend both those things, which is middle grade and fantasy, and so I think I will love them. Firstly, I have Amari and the Night Brothers by B.B. Alston. This is published by an imprint. I think Rick Riordan selects all the books. I haven't read any of his books before, but I know he selects all the books for this imprint, and they're all middle grade fantasy written by authors of different backgrounds and ethnicities. And I think it was purposefully sort of decided to have this imprint because previously the genre had been like super white and super focused on like white like beliefs and like religious beliefs and history and all those sorts of things. So yeah, this one sounds great. I think this is set in contemporary America, but Amari gets a weird invitation to join the Magical Bureau of Supernatural Affairs, and she has to complete missions in a world where mermaids, aliens and magicians are real, and her roommate is a were-dragon. And she decides to take the invitation up because her brother has just gone missing under sort of mysterious circumstances. So she's hoping that through this magical world she can try and find her brother. So, I mean, who doesn't love like a magical sort of school setting? I love it. So it's just going to be really interesting to discover the world with Amari. There is that one. This next one I just saw in the library, and I thought it had a very nice cover and a very nice title. And this is The Raven Heir by Stephanie Burgis. This is set in a magical world. These three children have lived all their lives in a tower, surrounded by their mother's enchantments, but one of them knows that she is heir to the Raven throne of Corvin, a land no one can rule for long and hope to live. Only their mother knows that she is the heir, and one day, thanks to Cordelia, who's the eldest, Destiny finds them, and I think they're going to go on this big quest out of the tower and find this sort of wider magical world. And I mean, like I said, middle grade just have brilliant cover designs. My favourite type of art is the art style that's used in like middle grade and children's books. I just adore it. And then lastly we have 4 non-fiction books. The first 3 are like hardcore non-fiction. I don't know what you call this type of non-fiction. And the 4th one is a memoir. So firstly, I've heard a few people talk about this one and I've heard nothing but positive things. And that is Our Woman on the Ground, essays by Arab women reporting on the Arab world. And this, I don't know who edited it. Edited by Zahra Hankir. And yeah, this is what it says on the tin, and I haven't heard anyone say less than like it's amazing and really informative. I really enjoy essay collections that are by groups of different authors, but I read so few of them and I really need to seek more of them out. So I was really happy to see that my library had a copy of this. This is something I know so little about, like Arab women I feel like I know very little about, but also just like reporters in like war zones and things like that is something I just know so little about. So I think the blend of those things is going to be really interesting and informative, and I'm assuming incredibly upsetting, but definitely something I want to know more about. And hopefully, one thing I really like about essay collections is that you can find authors you really love and then find some of their other work, so I'm hoping that will happen. This next one is going to be a really hard read, but one I think I will really get a lot out of, and having read the first couple of pages I really like the writing style, and that is The Way We Survive, Notes on Rape Culture by Katrina Morton. And this is exactly what it says. It says that a cultural conversation has been ignited in recent years about rape culture and the devastating after effects that sexual violence brings. But what does it mean to experience sexual violence? How do we cope in the aftermath of such a devastating event, or move on from something society tells us was not that bad? It says this author brings her voice to the fore, offering up a cultural critique of the insidiousness of misogyny, along with personal, intimate insights into how those who've experienced sexual violence can truly come to survive in the aftermath of such a violation. So yeah, I definitely want to read that one before I have to take it back to the library. As I do all of these, and definitely this next one, this is one, again, that I think is a fairly recent release in the US. I was so happy to see that my library had a copy of it. I think I've mentioned before, my library has a specific room that is for American publications, and that's because during World War II we had a branch of the US Army that were based in Norwich, and so money was put towards that being something that was sort of remembered. And in that room in the library there's lots of like things you can read about that group of men, and also lots of books that are like sort of donated to the library by that fund. And so this is How the Word is Passed, A Reckoning with the History of Slavery Across America by Clint Smith. And I've heard phenomenal things about this one. So again, this is what it says on the tin. But it says that Clint Smith begins in his hometown of New Orleans, and he leads the reader on an unforgettable tour of monuments and landscapes, those that are honest about the past and those that are not, and offers an intergenerational story of how slavery has been central in shaping America's collective history. So I think this is going to focus like specifically on certain locations in the US and tell the like probably covered up story of their history with slavery. And this is something that I think has been much more at the forefront of conversation in the last couple of years, in the UK as well, you know, with people tearing down statues of people who were known plantation owners and known slavers, and these people are still being celebrated in British history today. And this is obviously something that also happens in the US and many other countries, I'm sure. So it's something I always want to learn more about, and I've heard people say that Clint Smith has just done a phenomenal job of writing this one. So yeah, really want to get to it as soon as possible. And then lastly, of course, we have to have a memoir. I love memoirs so much, and if I'm going to do a 5-star predictions video, a memoir has to be involved. And the one I have is Aftershocks by Nadia Owusu. This is the UK cover. I like the US cover as well, but I think this is a really excellent UK cover. I don't know if you can tell, but there's like after images of this photo on top of the actual photo. Does that make sense? So Nadia Owusu, her mother fled from Tanzania to the US when Nadia was 2, and she left Nadia in Tanzania. And then when Nadia was 13, her Ghanaian father died. So this memoir is sort of following Nadia through her life. She lives in loads of different places. I'm pretty sure she can speak many languages, and it says that she feels that she has multiple identities at war with herself, and sort of in the wreckage of her life she tries to piece herself back together, and through this memoir she's sort of trying to find a thread, a narrative of who she really is. And I guess what country and people and languages she has this true connection to. I think it's really interesting in an age where we're very compelled to sort of box tick and to apply certain groups to people. Some people don't fit that narrative and feel that in every group they're not quite welcome and they don't quite fit in. And I think this is going to be a really interesting examination of that, so really looking forward to it. And again, I've heard really good things about that one as well, so excited. I now need to start reading all of these and just hope to hell that nobody else requests these books from the library before I've read them, because I really want to read them all. So let me know if you've read any of these, if you have any of them on your TBR, if you have any books that you think are going to be 5 stars that you're hoping to read before the end of the year. And yeah, let me know which ones you think are most likely to be 5-star reads for me. That'd be really interesting. So thanks for watching, I'll see you in the next video. Bye!